And so we will see the United States in a moment, see what happens. We're going to turn, and so that's kind of where we're going to leave the Atlantic right now. The Lend-Lease program is very important. Basically, it's the United States taking the side of the Allies without actually 100% getting into the war. Japan began invading, not invading, invading other Asian countries in the 1930s to create an empire. And we say, remember Manchuria, and to gather more raw materials. So Japan, again, as an island nation, they need areas that can provide them raw materials, such as oil, such as trees, such as iron, in order to be able to make a lot of the products that they need to run an empire, to be a military power. So, problem, if we remember back after the Spanish-American War, the United States controlled Guam, controls Guam, as well as the Philippines. And so, of course, you have Japan looking to expand in this area. The United States is afraid that Japan is going to attempt to take control of these two islands. To this end, FDR is trying, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, president at the time, is doing his best to contain Japan in the region. And so one way that he did that was to send aid to China in order to slow them down. They also put an oil embargo. And an embargo is when you refuse to sell a good to a certain country. Put an oil embargo on Japan. So basically saying, we're not going to export any oil, we're not going to send you any oil. Japan needed oil in order to run its military. Think, oil is what we get gas from. Think that you need gas in a car in order to be able to run the car around. Well, in the same way, Japan needs oil to be able to move its ships around, to move its planes around, in order to move its troops around. So with an oil embargo and not being able to have any good place to get oil on the island of Japan, they have to look for a place to kind of conquer or to control in order to get that oil. The easiest place that was right by there is the Philippines, the U.S. Philippines. And we will see if we can see it on this map. We have Japan here, and we have the Philippines here. We have the Guam right here, and in essence, Japan is going to try to control the Philippines in order to get the oil that is there. Japan's plan, sneak attack. And so they are going to try to attack the U.S. fleet. We have and again, I'm sure familiar with Pearl Harbor, but we have Guam over here. If the map extended a little bit, then you would see Hawaii is right over here. The U.S. fleet has assets all here in the Pacific, but they're concentrated at Hawaii, at Pearl Harbor. So, continue. So, the U.S. knew as it was coming, but not, let's just say not where. Not where it was going to be. We had decoded some of their telegrams. We knew that there was going to be some kind of sneak attack, but we did not actually know there were possible. Guam was maybe the Philippines, the Aleutian Islands, Pearl Harbor. Then we have this day, again, December 7th, 1941, is a famous day in United States history, partially because of FDR's speech afterwards, talking about it being a day that will live in infamy. On December 7th, 1941, Japan attacked the U.S. base at Pearl Harbor. It started at 7:55 a.m. and lasted 2 hours. As for a military attack, it was quite successful. The total toll on the United States was that 202,403 Americans were killed, 18 ships were sunk, and 188 planes were destroyed. And so what ends up happening is there's a sneak attack. These Japanese airplanes are basically coming and flying in over Pearl Harbor, and they're dropping bombs onto unsuspecting soldiers, unsuspecting ships. Many of them were still in their beds. Many of them were still, getting up, and they're being bombed by a power that we're not at war. So, one important thing out of this, and kind of one of the last things we're covering, the ships were all put very close together, and so they were very easy targets for the Japanese. I want to note that aircraft carriers would play a huge role in World War II, especially in the Pacific, And luckily, all three of the United States aircraft carriers were out at sea and not damaged. Like air support and aircraft carriers, basically ships that carry airplanes throughout the sea, especially in the gigantic Pacific, ended up being a really, really important part of the war. And they take a long time to build, and they're very expensive. And so to have those not be destroyed was a stroke of good luck for the United States. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. And with the United States Pacific Fleet crippled, the Japanese made quick gains there. They seized the Philippines. Philippines. Philippines, Guam, and Wake Island. Then they conquered Singapore, cementing their control in the Pacific. And we can see right here on this where basically they are now, all of the stuff that is red is under their control by this point. We have Australia down here. Here is Hawaii over here. It's probably a little bit further than I was kind of implying a second ago. But they are controlling over here in Manchuria. They're controlling the Philippines. They're controlling these areas in China. And so this whole area of the Pacific at this point is squarely in Chinese hands. That is our video.